but what I'm going to do is deal with Senate Bill 114 first. Then I'm going to move to things that have involved people driving a great distance to get here. So then we will go to Greenbush for a short presentation, and we thank them for being with us today. And then we will go to Senate Bill 87. If we don't have time for the other two bills after that, we will carry them forward to tomorrow. So if you notice, I did add back in SB 114 because there was a conversation that I felt we needed to have about it. The chair recognizes Representative McNorton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to reconsider Senate Bill 114.
Is there a second? Representative Pishney. And I have an amendment. I'm sorry. Is there debate on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, and the motion carries. Okay, and I am moving to reconsider the action on one of the amendments that we took when we last met. I realized we did something that we shouldn't have done, which was we referred to CASA, which would be considered a delegation of our authority, which we are prohibited from doing. We also added a conversation about units and credit hours and so forth, and I have come to believe that we may have had some unintended consequences to that, and I move that we strike those actions. And Jason has copies of that if you would like to see that. Please raise your hand if you would like a copy. I think that's all. Do we have enough copies? Oh, okay. Got it. So just bear with us. Yes. Let's let that happen, and then we'll come back for the second. Okay, and seeing that everybody does have a copy, I'll go back. I've made the motion. A second is in order. The chair, thank you, Representative McNorton, for their second, and we'll have Jason explain the amendment.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, the motion is simply to reconsider the balloon amendment number 3 that was adopted by the committee last week, and this was the amendment to require that the student participate in activity that is not offered by the school they regularly attend, and that they demonstrate their academic progress by passing not fewer than 5 units was the amendment that the committee adopted last week in the semester immediately preceding the semester in which a student is going to participate. And then a conforming amendment on page 3 was adopted to amend 72-7122. And so this motion would be to reconsider that and I believe to remove those amendments from the bill.
Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, please say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, did I miss discussion? Let's recognize Representative McNorton.
Can you explain that again, Jason, please? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee. The balloon that was handed out are amendments that were adopted by the committee last Thursday. And so my understanding is the motion is to remove these amendments from the bill with this motion. So these changes, including the conceptual amendment that was adopted to make it 5 units, would be removed from the bill. And this added language would no longer appear in the bill if it's passed out of committee.
And Jason, just for clarification, this only removes what we did in number 3. Everything else that we did remains.
That's correct.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, and the motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move to recommend SB 114 favorably for passage as amended.
And I see a second from Representative Hill. Is there further discussion? Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a good issue that has been addressed here, but again, I think this could easily have been handled by the Kansas State Board of Education and our local school districts. So I would be voting against this because I consider it to be legislative overreach. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign? No. And the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Is there anybody who would like to be recorded? Representative Stogsdill, Nguyen, Ruiz, Featherston, and Miller. Thank you all very much for your assistance with this matter. And we are going to hear a presentation from Greenbush. I was kind of surprised at the extent, and by the way, if you're standing, we did open the overflow room, so if you prefer to sit, you can watch there. There was great interest in understanding what the service centers do better, so we had a presentation from KSDE about that, but we also wanted to invite Greenbush. They have an amazing reputation, and they've also been gracious to help us with our time issue today, and we are going to give them 7 minutes to present, and we are going to start with their executive director, Randy Corns. Randy, thank you for being with us today.
In the House Education Committee, I'm Randy Corns, Executive Director of Greenbush, Southeast Education Service Center. With me is my associate, Stacy Clarkson. If she would come up here, please. She's going to share out a little bit in a joint session with this. Just a little bit about Greenbush. It was founded in 1976, way back when. Started out with some districts coming together and Fort Scott Community College coming together, and it did videographs, copies of 8mm films, stenograph, doing copies of that nature, and you got to do all the ammonia smell and everything of that nature. And so it was just built from there to provide services to school districts, communities, families, however they were asked, it was built. And so with that, Stacy's going to share with some of those things that we currently do. We are a service center and an interlocal. So we're the combination of both, as Dr. Harwood mentioned last week in his presentation to you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy. You're welcome, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and distinguished committee members. I appreciate your time today to represent Greenbush. We primarily help districts with things that they've asked us to help them with. I like to think of us as doing 3 things really, really well. We do professional development for teachers, we do direct services with students, and then we do what I'm going to call operational supports for school districts that may have a need for something. So I'll go back and give you a couple of examples of all of that. In professional development, right now we partner with KSDE to help deliver the letters training or the structured literacy training to teachers across the state. We have different cadres going on with that. We also additionally have what we call a teacher leader cadre for teachers that want to step up and take some more leadership responsibility. We do some leadership training with them. Two very successful programs. We also then step over into another world from ELA or reading to do professional development around special education. So really understanding what that process is so that school districts can make better decisions when they're deciding if a child needs special education. Speaking of special education, one of our first programs revolves around special education, and that was the school at the Parsons State Hospital, the special purpose school, which we continue to operate today. We also started doing audiology and deaf education services early on, and we still do those services. We were fortunate enough to expand our audiology services to the Topeka area last year through a partnership with TARC. And that has been very successful to keep families from having to drive to Kansas City or other locations like Wichita to have their infants and toddlers screened for hearing impairments. The third thing that we do pretty well is help districts with operational supports. So, for example, there's a lot of turnover sometimes in school districts in their clerk position or their payroll position. And that's not a position that's easily trained right away, especially if the person that's been doing it for several years or whatever leaves. And so we come in and provide some professional development or might even step in for a short time to do those actual payroll services for districts. So again, we partner with districts. We partner with other agencies. We partner with other service centers to provide the things that the districts may not be able to get on their own. And I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you very much. And you have plenty more time, just so you know, because I didn't count questions in your 7. Is there anything you wanted to expand on, or are you ready for questions?
I think I'm ready for questions.
Okay, very good. One of those, I'll start with a question. I found it interesting, the payroll ability that you guys have. As some areas continue to get small, do you think that there is an efficiency opportunity in having some of the service centers take over payroll?
Take over, I'm not sure I
Or
would agree.
provide that function? I mean, some schools are so large that would never make sense, but there are enough small ones at some point that might make sense?
Yes, we are already doing that for several school districts. I'm going to look at Randy for clarification. 5? 8? See, good thing we partner on this, another partnership. So 8 small districts that really cannot find the help locally with the expertise needed to process a large payroll correctly. So yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Additional questions, Representative Brantley, then Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here today. This is great information. Can you tell me how many of the TASM projects are aligned with you guys as the provider?
So lots of acronyms. TASN, first of all, is the Technical Assistance Network and it's operated through KSDE. We hold one contract for services, and it's actually featured in the booklet that we handed out. It's called Educate Kansas, and it's a project that is centered around teacher recruitment. As you may or may not be aware, there's a national shortage of teachers, and this project is specific to trying to recruit teachers for Kansas through a multitude of ways, such as we operate a website where jobs could be posted. We do professional development and coaching around why there might be a teacher shortage in a specific district. Additionally, we do some things to elevate the profession. So we have a conference called Boost where teachers can come and feel like, yay, this is good to be a part of the education when, they get beat up a lot in their day-to-day jobs. So, does that answer your question, Matt?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just, that's perfect. And could you give me an idea, just, we try to kind of process how large these interlocal service centers are. How many FTEs do you all have within your entity?
So our FTE count is right about 500, give or take, on any month. That other interlocals have that amount, but the difference with us being a service center is we are spread out geographically across the state, where some of them are more isolated. The service center, SEK Interlocal 637, is right out of Pittsburgh, and so they have similar in nature employees, but theirs is very geographically centered around the 13 counties they support, or 13 districts, excuse me.
We're going to move along. Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and
Pishney
thank you
and Hill.
again for being here. I was really surprised. I always thought of Greenbush as just southeast Kansas, but there's stuff across the state.
Stuff across the state.
Are there not service centers like in southwest Kansas, or?
No, in fact, we do partner with the service center that's out of southwest Kansas on some professional development. One of the main things that you'll see there is that we also partner with an agency that's out of Garden City called Russell Child Development Center. And what they do, what we do with them is we are their employing entity. So we employ their employees, their health insurance, all of those payroll taxes, et cetera, flow through us, instead of Russell having their own administration. Now, they do have their administration. Rebecca Clancy is their executive director, and she reports to their board. And so we do things with their board, and then they do things what their board recommends, compensation, health insurance. Then we go back, and then we get that approval through our board. So two processes there.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
You're welcome, Representative. Before we move on to new questions, I could hear some of the conversations in the audience, and I'd like the audience to be aware that, number one, what you say gets recorded, and number two, it gets picked up by their microphone, and number three, then people who are online cannot hear because they're hearing both conversations at the same time. Representative Pishney.
Madam Chair, thank you. And unfortunately, the representative from Lyon County beat me to the punch, because me being the representative from Southwest Kansas, I was going to point that out. But he comes to visit every once in a while, so I will forgive him on this. But thank you. I wanted to make sure that people understood your relationship with Russell Child. So
Yes.
thank you very much for explaining that.
Sure, thank you.
Representative Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Greenbush, for all that you do. And I've watched you for many years and seen all the programs that you have successfully ran. I was a little curious looking through here with the current emphasis on literacy in the state and your focus on teacher education. Are you heavily involved in the literacy program? I didn't see much in the pamphlet.
Yes, so this we do for our board annually. This was the last one that we did, so it was probably started this time last year. So I will say that first of all. But secondly, yes, we are pretty well involved with the literacy initiative. I mentioned the letters training that we're doing with KSDE, multiple other workshops in districts, professional development within districts as their request for literacy. If you're talking about the blueprint for literacy, which goes through the colleges, we are having conversations with them. In fact, last week I went to Pitt State to a regional conversation and met with their folks about how we could better partner together to get that needed instruction out to districts. So although I don't think it's as pretty in our handout, we are very involved with that professional development regarding literacy.
Yeah, you kind of anticipated my follow-up question there. So I'm pleased that you're working with Blueprint some now, and would just encourage you to continue to work towards literacy for all children. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Last call for additional questions. Seeing none, I want to thank you both for being here today. I think you guys don't know how many fans you had when the blueprint initially got discussed, people said, what about the centers? And we appreciate the things that you do for Kansas's students, and again, appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And if you really enjoyed and want to hear more, I hear you guys are making an encore appearance in K through 12 ed budget with Chairman Getz.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. We are going to move to our hearing for SB 87, and one of the hardest parts of my job is guessing how much time to allow each conferee, because I have no way to predict how many questions are going to happen. So I'm going to start off with saying we're going to do one question for a representative before we go back for second questions, unless you say short. I know once in a while you guys like to ask a setup question and then get to your second question. If you are doing those, if you let me know that you're doing it very short, I'll let you go ahead and do your two conferees. I keep this very sophisticated free app called Talk Time on my phone, or Talk Timer, and I I put it up here. It's not nice large numbers for you guys to see, and it'll turn orange when you have 30 seconds left, and it will turn red when you have 0. And this is the one time that I exempt myself from the rule about if your phone goes off in committee, so that you can hear that. I know that I like everybody to feel comfortable, so please know that I don't start the timer until you say your first word. So take your time, get yourself spread out, organize your materials how you would like to. But also, if seeing a timer makes you nervous, you are free to let me know that you would prefer not to see the timer. We have 23 conferees. So I usually like to do at least 2 minutes, but I'm looking at the clock and I am going to go ahead and do 1 minute and 45 seconds. And I think that will get us about where we need to be. And I'm going to encourage you that what you might want to do is really get to the point of, we all have your testimony, so you may want to highlight what's most important to you. So please don't come up and feel like you need to read it. You won't get through it all, but pick out what you think is most important. So we are going to start with proponents, and we are going to start with Chuck Weber. I'm sorry, you were first. Okay, very good. Representative Ruiz? Yes, let's do that. Thank you. I'm so busy being efficient that I skipped that very important part. Thank you, Representative Ruiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This will be brief, as the committee has seen the bulk of this bill previously in the hearing on House Bill 2136. Senate Bill 87 is the identical Senate version to that bill. And so you will notice that it is amending the Tax Credit for Low-Income Student Scholarship Act to expand the eligibility of students who may receive scholarships under that act. It keeps the 250% of federal poverty level income qualification, but then adds 3 categories of students who do not have to meet that income qualification there on page 2. The students who are placed in foster care or kinship care anytime prior to graduation or reaching age 21. Students whose parent are on active duty in the military or who were killed in the line of duty, and students of a parent who is an emergency medical service provider, firefighter, or law enforcement officer. Those 3 categories of students also qualify. The bill also amends the tax credit provisions for the donors who contribute to a scholarship granting organization to fund the scholarships that are awarded to the students under the program. I will note that the Senate Bill 87 increases the annual aggregate limit from the current $10 million up to $15 million would be allowed under this bill. The provisions, you may remember, of doing automatic increases by 25% if the current limit is 75% of the current limit is exceeded, is still in the bill. It is now under Senate amendment, has a maximum cap of 25 million. So once it reaches 25 million, then there are no further increases without further legislative action. I would also point out that the Senate Committee on Education amended Senate Bill 87 to eliminate the new language on page 4 that would have increased the contribution for the donor to a 100% tax credit. That language has been stricken under Senate Bill 87. So under the bill as currently written, it would remain at that 75% of the amount contributed by the taxpayer. The bill will go into effect on July 1st. If enacted, it did pass the Senate on a final action vote of 24-16. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Revisor Long. Do we have questions for the Revisor? Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, what is the amount that's been allocated to date?
To date, I'm going to defer to our research staff. I think they have the amount of the awards from the previous year.
You may answer, thank you. Oh, you don't have it? If you guys find it during the course of our hearing, be happy to call on you to have you answered.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Seeing none, Jason, thank you so very much. And we will go to testimony. We'll begin with former Representative Chuck Weber. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be brief since I have a 1 minute. I think the revisor did a great job describing the bill, but a couple of points that maybe to add some color commentary with the shot clock running there. The scholarship program does not use any public money. Does not use any public money, period. The program is not an ESA. It's not a refundable tax credit program, anything like this. Donations are made to the scholarship granting organization that then distributes the scholarships to the children in the schools. The 250% level is the same level that Americans use for the Affordable Care Act. If you're a low income at up to 250%, you can get Affordable Care Act, or what some people call Obamacare, assistance from the government. So that's just a little bit of context on that 250% number. Really the gist of what, and Catholic schools use this program the most. What we're really looking for is an increase in that cap. Last year, about 8.4 million was donated to the scholarship granting organizations. That's all of the scholarship organizations statewide. And because of the popularity of the program, we would like that increase to 15 millions, and then also, as Jason mentioned, a total cap of 25 million. So I think that's about it. There are a number of reports that SGOs have to give. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but some of the conferees that are following me can do that. But there's a lot of transparency about who's getting the scholarships and how much they are and that sort of thing. So I'll stand for questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
And now is the time. Questions for Mr. Weber. Representative Ruiz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Chuck, how many Catholic students are we talking about?
Yeah, Representative Reese, I'm not sure. The conferees behind me have those numbers. I'm not trying to dodge you, I just don't know that number.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Nguyen, then Schreiber, and then we have an answer to your other question.
Okay, I'll take my answer first.
Okay, go ahead, Elena.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Elena Rutter, Legislative Research. The total amount of tax credits since the 2016 tax year is roughly 32.8 million, and then the total amount of contributions is about 46.3 million.
And how many this year, this past year?
In the 2024 tax year,
Yes, please.
it was 5.5 million in total amount of tax credits, and then total amount of contributions was 7.8 million.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Did you want to ask your other question?
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
On the websites of your schools, Catholic schools, do you have any notice that you do not discriminate against students?
Representative, I don't do those websites, so again,
To
they're,
your knowledge, how about that? I don't.
to my knowledge, I mean,
Websites.
I don't know, to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Schreiber?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chuck. You mentioned that the tax credits weren't refundable, I think you, is that, if I?
That's right. It's,
okay.
this is not the tax refundable program that you may have or may not have heard about.
Okay, but the bill does allow for the tax credits to be rolled forward, those that aren't, used in the current year, they can be rolled forward for the tax liability in future years.
So, Representative, I think you're right about that. I'm not a subject matter expert. I would refer to legislative research or Jason or someone on that one. I think you're right, though, on that.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Were you just trying to differentiate between the refundable, there's two different bills, and one is a refundable tax credit where you pay, the parent pays up front,
Correct.
and so you're just trying to say this
Just
is
sort
not
of like
that.
clear the slate, like this is not an ESA, this is not a tax refundable program that maybe you've heard about. This is just a low income tax credit scholarship program.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Weber. We will go next to James Franco.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to your committee again. James Franco from the Kansas Policy Institute. You have my testimony in front of you, of course, and there's some achievement numbers baked into that testimony. These are numbers that everybody on this committee is very familiar with. It's the thing that gets, excuse me, you out of bed every morning. It's the thing that everybody in this room seeks to remedy. Everybody who is here cares about getting Kansas kids the education opportunities that they deserve. We do differ, however, on the best way to do that. And if you'll forgive a cliched story, I would think of this program as something similar to kind of, you know, the old saw about a guy's walking down the beach, there's starfish there, and he's throwing them back in one at a time. Somebody walks up and says, what about all the ones you're not going to get to? It doesn't matter, why bother? And his response is, well, it matters to this one, and then chucks it back into the ocean. This program gives opportunities to kids who otherwise might not find that right opportunity in a public school of their choice. Or excuse me, a public school where they happen to live. And we have school choice in this state for the families that can afford it. They can move to a different public school district. They can stay within their public school district and supplement with tutors. They can go into their own pocket and homeschool or educate privately. This program and the expansion before you today simply allows that opportunity to be present for more families. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll give 26 seconds to the next person.
We don't allow that, but we do appreciate brevity. Questions for Mr. Franco? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Addressing your chucking the rock back into the water, I know it's been said in other committees before that students that come to private school that cannot meet certain standards or rigor then are sent back to their original school. So I'm a little concerned about who's actually being chucked in the water.
So I think that's a fair point, but I think that gets to the absolute heart of the issue, is that we have, close to 500,000 public school kids in Kansas across all the districts in the state. We have a variety of different public school, private school, micro school environments. And the point is that no one system, be it parochial, public, home, whatever the case may be, is going to serve each of those kids equally well. And this program allows that money to follow that child wherever they might find those needs met. And if that's in a high-performing public school, then all the better.
Further questions for Representative Ruiz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And private schools don't have to accept these students, is that correct?
The private schools are allowed to have whatever admission standards that they currently have, whether they're in the program or not. Yes, sir.
And private schools also have some type of scholarships at one time or another, I think.
I would have to imagine so, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Franco. We will go next to Andrea Hillibert. I hope I said that right. And then Vincent Unk. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Estes and Committee. I am so excited to be here, and so I'm just going to talk so fast and try to keep up with me. I am so glad to be here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 87. I'm Andrea Hillibert, and it has been my honor to serve as teacher and administrator in Catholic schools in Kansas for 32 years, so more than a minute. It is such a blessing. I look at this room filled with people. They're engaged in this discussion. That's a win right there for the families in Kansas to have so many people passionate about this subject. Differing viewpoints, healthy conflict, and a process that includes listening with an open mind will ensure that we make the best decisions for our kids. My school is located about 1/4 of a mile from here to the west. Our students come from many different backgrounds, experiences, and zip codes, 18 zip codes to be exact. School choice breaks the arbitrary limitations that exist between where a student lives and where he or she must go to school. It cannot be acceptable to us that zip code remains a significant indicator of student success. That's not right. 64% of my tax credit students, is that how much time I have left? 30 seconds, okay. They're minorities, 100% qualify for free and reduced lunches, offering parents in that group who can feel unincluded, marginalized, a choice in the education of their children and increases their investment in and satisfaction with school. It's not a referendum on public school versus private school, and anybody who tries to make it that's a red herring argument to keep us from the larger issues that are important, which is making parents feel empowered. We do not want our parents to feel voiceless. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today, and on behalf of educators, we know you're counting on us.
Audience and conferees, please remember, as soon as the chair says time, you are to cease talking. Did you want to stand for questions? I didn't know if I had to. It's totally up to you. Okay. Then we will move on to Vincent Anch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Vincent Anch, I'm the Executive Director for the Catholic Education Foundation based in Kansas City, Kansas, and we cover 22 counties up to Marysville and Seneca, all the way down to Emporia. This program is really important for our low-income families. In our SGO, everybody that gets a scholarship obviously qualifies for the low-income criteria as noted in the state. And the thing that makes it so interesting for us is the fact that we're having tremendous success with those kids. Last year, 100% of our kids graduated, every single grade, and that's the third straight year we've had that. And over 83% of our kids have gone on to college, and up to 90% when you add career technical training. And just to clarify, the Department of Revenue just lists that we raised over $11 million this past year, and we actually used $8.3 million in credits. We had that debate last hearing, but we were required to be audited, and we were required to report every dollar we raise and every dollar we give away to the Department of Revenue. They toll them up, and you'll see that on their website. Another stat I want to share with you is that 100% of the families that get a tax credit scholarship pay all of their taxes, state and local. This isn't a voucher program where they get money back. They simply get funding from the private citizens, and we're proud that we were able to bring in over $11 million in private funding to educate Kansans in Kansas City. Every year we have a dinner with the scholarship parents, and we have the schools nominate a handful, and we hear their testimonies of why this is so important, and it's very emotional. They come because their kids are being bullied, because they're not growing emotionally, or they're having issues spiritually. They're coming because of a lot of issues, inappropriate comments made by other kids, sex in grade school kinds of things. Not the teachers, these are the fellow students. and the parents feel like this is a heaven-sent gift for them to come, well, they'll be in a safe environment. And I'll yield.
Time, thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot to push start when you started, but I think I guessed pretty
I
close.
saw your body language.
Thank you. Any questions for our country? Representative Nguyen? Did you want to stand for questions?
I will, sure.
Thank you. Representative Nguyen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How long have you been in this capacity?
Just about 7 years.
And how long have you benefited from this program?
The program, I think, is 10 years old, so it started before I was on board.
The last 7 years you've been
Yes.
in charge. How many total students have you served from the 4 school districts in Kansas, in Monterey County?
I can tell you that this current school year, we have 814, and the number grows by about 50 to 60 each year. If you add that up, I don't think, there were some years when this program started where only a handful of kids could qualify until the bill was expanded. So I can't really answer that question, but it's a few thousand kids.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In looking at your website, I see numerous, like I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, extremely wealthy donors, both private and business. Clearly, you have the resources to raise all the money you want. Why are the Kansas taxpayers responsible for raising more money for you?
Yeah, well, we don't have all the money that we want, unfortunately. And with the tax credit program, our average scholarship is about $2,500 for grade school and double that for high school. That doesn't clear half of the tuition, better yet, the cost of educating. The donors that you have listed are donors that give to a gala that we have for another scholarship program for low-income kids, and that doesn't even cover all of them. This is a smaller version that's helping us reach more kids. If we had all the money we could, we would have thousands more kids enrolled because the parents come to our schools asking for help, and we can only give them up to whatever the limit is in tax scholarships.
Just a moment. I heard comment from the front row, and that is very much out of order. We run a tight ship here. We're very respectful. Representative Featherston, your last question, please.
Thank you. There were 600 scholarships from this low-income tax program that weren't issued last year. Why didn't you use them?
We didn't have the funds. We've never turned away a kid with the scholarship. If they apply and the state qualifies them, we will fund them. If they qualify and they decide they don't want the scholarship, we can't talk them into enrolling.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Representative Ruiz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And what's a disqualifying factor? You use the word qualify quite a bit. Is that based on income, based on a child's disciplinary?
Yeah, it's the state's criteria. They have to be a Kansas resident. They have to meet the free and reduced lunch or up to the 250% of criteria. And that's it. That's it. And the state tells us who qualifies, and then we notify the principals who notify the families, and then we send the checks to the schools to cover the family's tuitions.
You're welcome. Representative Brantley?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here today. I just want to clarify that the parents that are bringing their students to your school still pay their regular taxes.
Every one of them, yes. They get no cash, they get no tax break, they get no tax write-off.
Thank you.
Representative Nguyen for the second time.
Thank you for the second time. Based on what you just said, when you get the notice from the state, then you notify the school?
Yes.
And you notify the parent?
The school notifies the parents.
Okay, so would you call that recruitment?
Well, the parents go to the schools and ask if they have scholarships, and then they're given a scholarship application from the state. It's a state scholarship. They fill those out, those go to the state, then the state lets them know if they qualify, and that those that don't get the scholarship. Some of the schools have other scholarship processes with another application, and most of them are partial scholarships, not the full. Our grade schools average about $4,500 in tuition, and these scholarships are around 2,500, give or take.
Thank you for the second time.
Representative Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the work you do and how you care about kids. We hear a lot of rhetoric about how private schools cherry pick children to make their results look better. Do you have a means testing that children have to have a certain intellectual or socioeconomic or other criteria that you means test children by?
I can't answer that, but our superintendent is here. I'm going to put, his name is Vince too, so I apologize.
Vince too, Vince also. No, we do not.
Sir, please wait to be acknowledged. You may come to the microphone.
My apologies, that's me.
And we do this because we have certain legal requirements to meet, and we also need to have you speak into the microphone. So you may begin.
Thank you. Vince Cascone, Superintendent of Schools for the Archdiocese of Kansas City and Kansas. And could you repeat that just so I make sure I'm clear?
Question, sir, was we hear a lot of rhetoric about how private schools cherry pick children to make their results look better. I was questioning what kind of means testing you have to make sure that these kids are at the intellectual level that you require or socioeconomic or other criteria.
Yeah, there is no testing like that, and our goal is to have them come to us so that we can help them to achieve those results they achieve, and we have great success with that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Representative Pishney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't going to ask a question, but it seems like what I'm hearing in the room is that there's a concern about schools recruiting with these scholarships. So the point of my question is, do you go out with this scholarship application to the community and recruit students to come in based on that scholarship, just like they would in athletics in college or something like that?
Go ahead. Well, you first. I would say no. It's up to our principals to draw enrollment and increase enrollment, and they don't have the time to do any recruitment. The people come to them, and they speak at some of the churches and have open houses, and that's really about the extent of it. So they don't go out and get a 4-star athlete or a 4.0 kid from somewhere and say, hey, come down to this school. The schools that CEF mostly supports are low-income schools. Our average school of our 22 schools has 40% of their enrollment is free and reduced lunch kids. And if you move it up to 250, we have 4 schools where we fund 100% of the kids, some with tax credit and some with other scholarships. There aren't a lot of people in wealthy suburbs that want to go to an inner city school for the academics. It just, they kind of stay where their closest school is. They just want to choose Catholic.
So, Madam Chair, could I just make a statement quickly?
I'm really worried about the clock because we are already 20 minutes after and we have a lot of people to go. Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, do you have the facilities and so on to handle children that might have severe disabilities or behavioral problems that have been documented and so on? Do you take those kids as well?
You may respond.
Thank you. And may I use my phone for this? I don't want to. Yes, you may. Okay, do you want to make sure? Yes, we have a number of students that have a variety of different academic, learning, and physical disabilities. We have over 10% of all of our students receive Title I services. And in addition to that, well, total, we have 23% of our student population that receive services, including those who are listed with IEPs, those that are under support plans, 521 plans, 521 students with support plans, and 723 students who are English language learners. So our goal is to accept all those who have those needs to the best of our ability.
Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A lot of those kids have need services that go way beyond the abilities of the state to pay, or they, especially with no special education money, that sort of thing. Where do you get the money to handle the kids that may have a severe disability and so on? Obviously, the scholarships wouldn't even begin to cover some of those.
Right. One method that we have, or one means that we have, is an organization called Embrace, and they help to fund students with any severe needs or any other type of learning disabilities.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I see no more questions, so we're going to move along. And you're welcome. Thanks for being with us today. Jeff Andrews.
Hi, I'm on WebEx. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you may proceed.
All right. So thank you, Madam Chair, Estes, and committee members for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 87. I'm Jeff Andrews, Superintendent of Schools for the Diocese of Salina. Our diocese spans 26,000 square miles across north central and northwest Kansas. We have Catholic schools as far northeast as Hanover, as far west as Colby, and then 13 Catholic schools in between. We operate schools that welcome family and students of all faiths. This program is about helping families find the best educational fit for their child, especially in our rural areas where options are limited. We've utilized this program for the past 3 years to help low-income students attend schools that meet their needs. For the 24-25 school year, our SGO, it's smaller compared to others, we awarded about $138,000 in scholarships to 102 students, an average of $1,351.74 per student. That doesn't cover the cost of education, as others have said before me. Since we started awarding funds in the 21-22 school year, we have provided $504,911 in scholarships. So about $100,000, $150,000 a year. This Senate bill is needed. The program's existed for over a decade, but the cap has never increased. The eligibility threshold is at 250% of the federal poverty level. As Chuck said, the same as the Affordable Care Act. It expands eligibility and increases available tax credit, helping more families in need, which we know there are many, many out there. It does not use public dollars for private education. It allows taxpayers to receive a credit for donations to SGOs, which operate under very strict regulations. The Catholic Church supports fully funded public schools while also recognizing that some families need alternative educational options. Expanding this program helps more families, particularly in rural Kansas, as well. I urge you to support Senate Bill 87.
Thank you very much for being with us today. Would you like to stand for questions?
Yes, if you have any.
Questions for the conferee? Seeing none, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
We will go next to Joyce Aranda.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you. My name is Joyce Aranda, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. I am the principal at All Saints Catholic School in Wichita, Kansas. I've also had the opportunity to teach in public schools, be a service center consultant at Southwest Plains Regional Service Center, and teach in the public school systems. I come to you today to talk about my school specifically. I currently serve 52 students that are qualifying and able to be part of this tax credit scholarship. Without that, they would not be able to attend our school. I have a family of 8 that has their kids coming through my school. I've just accepted 4 kids in the last month from South Africa with no English, from Vietnam with absolutely no English speaking. And they do not qualify for the tax credit because they don't follow the guidelines of being from Kansas. So we do everything in our school to help our families find the school that best meets their needs. My school is at 65% free and reduced. We are in Center City, Wichita. We're the most diverse school in the city of Wichita as far as our diversity. And I just really come to you to stress the importance of this bill to allow our families and our students to have the education that best fits their needs. And I strongly urge you to support Senate Bill 87 so that my students, along with many others, can continue to benefit from an education that best suits their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to stand for questions? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I understand it, Wichita Catholic schools do not charge tuition, so why would not every child be able to come to your school?
You know, that's a great question. I transfer from the Dodge City Diocese, and I don't understand why every single one of our buildings is not bulging at the seams with the opportunity of stewardship. Which means we're a tithing diocese. But, you know, there is no set amount. We cannot say, our pastors cannot say, you have to tithe this amount. It's based on what they choose to give to the church. And many, many times, especially in my school, it's a fraction, not even a fraction of what it costs to educate those students. So having the tax scholarship allows us to have these students in our school that don't meet the needs of the cost of educating them.
Any other questions? Representative Ruiz.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Madam Chair. Are your the students in your school all parishioners? Are their families members of the parish?
So I have, again, like I said, I'm a very diverse school, sit in Center City, Wichita, and I have schools from 7 different dioceses, and I even have non-Catholic students in my building. So they are not all parishioners.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for being with us today, and we will move on next to Alexandra Converse.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for having me today. My name is Alexandra Converse, and my son Major attends All Saints Catholic School in Wichita, Kansas. And this low-income tax credit scholarship program at All Saints has significantly helped many students in our diocese. I can say as a military family, we do move a lot. My husband is active duty with the Air Force, and we move every 3 years. So the demands of moving and the money that it's required is very hard on families. And so this program is amazing how it can offer military families who want to offer their student, their child, a well-rounded education that can also meet their spiritual needs without hurting their bank account. Essentially, they can focus on moving, they can focus on settling, which is very, very difficult for children. And I can honestly say we were not recruited to this school. We actually were very fortunate to find this school on our own. This school meets my son's academic and spiritual needs, and it's fantastic because many students in his class are part of this program, and he wouldn't have made the friends that he has, and he wouldn't have the opportunities that he has, just like these other students who are part of the program. So in conclusion, please support SB 87 so the children in the Wichita Catholic Diocese and other private schools have the opportunity for an education that best suits them. Thank you.
You're welcome. And would you like to stand for questions? Sure. Thank you. Questions for the conferee? Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm assuming you are one of the 98% of Wichita Catholic School student families that are Catholic. You can have free tuition. Why do you need this scholarship?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
I'll try to state it better. 98% of the students in Wichita Catholic schools are Catholic families that attend Catholic parishes and tithe supposedly to some degree.
Okay.
Assuming you're one of those 98% that you chose Catholic school for that reason, and you can have free tuition, why do you need this scholarship?
So thank you for repeating. So this scholarship, again, it is a lot for one student to attend a private Catholic school. And so this scholarship does benefit to kind of meet those other needs that the tithing cannot meet. And so yes, my family is Catholic. We do tithe to the church. And it is amazing to have this program to help meet those other benefits where we can have the tithing and then we can also have the tax credit that can help try to get that student that full rounded tuition payment.
Other questions for the conferee? Seeing none, thank you for being with us today, and we will move on to Jamie Finkeldye. And please tell me the right way if I got that wrong.
Good job. Woohoo! Tough one, you got it right. I'm Jamie Finkeldye. I'm the Associate Superintendent for the Diocese of Wichita. So we cover the entire southeast corner of the state. We have 38 schools. spreading from Pittsburgh and Fort Scott down to Oak City and Winfield and into Wichita and as far north as McPherson. And if you've, as you've heard, we have the stewardship model, so we don't charge a set tuition. Therefore, our schools really represent the neighborhoods they're in. This tax credit scholarship is very important to us because we support our low-income schools. We don't give money to all 38 schools. We focus it on our schools that have low-income students. And because you've asked us several times, why do we still need it if it's stewardship? We have lots of families, family of 8, and they give 8 or 10% of their income. That's not going to cover the cost of 8 kids going to school. A family of 4, you give 8% of your income. That's what we expect to go to our schools. That's not going to cover the cost of education. And so we have multiple scholarship opportunities, multiple ways to raise money. This is one of them that is very helpful for us and is very necessary. We give out about 800 this year, and a lot of people have said, so I'll just add one more thing to think about. We want to keep these kids in until they graduate from high school. So we give the money when they come in 3rd grade or kindergarten. We want to be able to give it to them for 12 years. This is why we need the cap to continue to raise so that we can continue to add more students and each year continue to support them all the way to the time they graduate. And I'll stand for questions.
Questions for the conferee? Seeing Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. The diocese in which I belong offers discounts to like the 2nd, the 3rd child, and then after that, those kids are free. So if they can do that, how does that relate to your diocese that offers free tuition?
Well, I don't want to speak for other dioceses. I imagine they can do that because of scholarship opportunities like this that allows them to have more money to give out in scholarships. So I'm not sure how they do it, but our funding model is we let you in as long as you're going to church on a regular basis, you volunteer in the school, and you give 8%. Those are for the ones that qualify for stewardship. On top of that, we have non-Catholics who attend our schools as well. They also receive these scholarships. In many cases, you'll be hearing from Dr. Shropshire here in a second, who is about 70% non-Catholic in her school, and this program is very beneficial for her as well. So it serves Catholic and non-Catholic kids alike.
Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here. We heard earlier of the Northeast Kansas or Catholic Education Foundation. That doesn't cover Wichita Diocese.
We have our own separate one called SCS.
That's what I was going to ask.
Support for Catholic Schools is the name of ours.
Okay, thank you.
Salina has its, I'm sorry.
No, that's right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions for the conferee? Seeing none, thank you. It was a pleasure to have you here today. We move next to a familiar face, Mrs. Linda Highland, who some of you remember as the spouse of former Representative Highland.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Chair and committee members. It's good to be here. I would like to touch on the fact that this body gives out many tax credits and exemptions. I was looking at an old report from 21 from the Revenue Department. At that time, the total was $10.7 billion. So it seems like this fund should be one that we all support and get really eagerly behind. Also, I learned when I called to the Department of Education for a family that was looking into the program, and I'll just let you know, a lot of people don't know about this program. It's hard to find on the Department of Education's website. Many states do this through the Treasurer's Office, where it would be much easier access. Well, at that call, I found out that high schoolers are not allowed into the program, only if they've been in the program. Well, this student had been extremely bullied, so much so that his life was in danger. So he could go to a Catholic school, but he couldn't use this program. I feel that needs to be changed so that all students can enter this program. Also, when I was inquiring, I asked the person on the call who was familiar with the finances, if they would put a document on the website that would tell and describe what the money would be for a family to be in this 250% of poverty level, because it's different for various families.
Mrs. Highland, you are out of.
My quote is absolutely not.
You are
Parents
out
would
of
cheat.
time. Thank you. Would you like to
Needs to be
stand for
moved.
questions?
Yes.
Questions for the conferee? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you
so
for the
much. It's a pleasure to have you back. Catherine Jimenez.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Jimenez, and I am a junior at Cape Mount Carmel Catholic High School in Wichita, Kansas. I began my education at Colvin Elementary in Wichita at the age of 4. Colvin was a diverse and welcoming school. However, before my 5th grade year, I transitioned into the Catholic diocese when I was invited to attend my parish school at St. Margaret Mary. My mom hesitated before entering me since my father had just recently passed away. After I entered St. Margaret Mary, I found a sense of community that pushed me forward. The teachers here cared about my growth, both academically and spiritually. The close community made me feel supported, and the friendships I built there are the ones I still cherish today. After graduating from 8th grade at St. Margaret Mary, I went to Cape Mount Carmel Catholic High School, where I've continued to grow. Cape has been more than just a school. It has been a guide, shaping me into who I am today. My teachers have challenged me to push my limits, helping me excel academically while strengthening my faith. The counselors at Cape have also played a role in my future planning, connecting me to resources like the St. Gianna program, which has opened my eyes to career opportunities in healthcare and beyond. As I look ahead, I feel prepared for my future. The education, values, and support I have received from Cape Mount Carmel have given me the tools I need to succeed. Thank you for your time and allowing me to share my journey with you.
Thank you. And would you like to stand for questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Listen, every young person that comes in front of us, I tell them, I understand how hard it is to face a bunch of adults and talk about this, and you did a beautiful job. Brooke Kraus.
Estes and committee members, as a mother of 4, born and raised in Southwest Kansas, go liberal, I'm honored and privileged to share my testimony with you today in support of increasing the cap of SB 87 to $15 million. Just so you know, our lovely neighbors, Missouri's cap is $75 million. Just some context for you. I have the privilege of serving as an admissions director at a private school in Shawnee, Kansas, where I meet families every day who are searching for the best school environment for their children. Since August, I've met with 81 families. Out of those 81 families, 39 have reported that they would need some type of tuition or financial assistance to have their child go to our school. And let me tell you that while a lot of these families I meet with have the financial means to make this happen, that's only part of the story. Most of these families, they're not seeking extra benefits. Many are single parents, grandparents on fixed income raising their grandchildren, and like me, a foster or adoptive parent who is working hard to provide stability for the children in our care. I'm grateful that our school provides generous financial assistance. We awarded over $400,000 last year to our students because we are committed to diversity in our school, not just academic diversity, but also socioeconomic diversity. And so it's just part of the story that everyone that goes to a private school can afford it. We work really hard to have diversity economically in our school.
Questions for the conferee? Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
What is the name of your school?
Maranatha Christian Academy.
Do you ask to see any grades or test scores before in your conversations with your parents?
It's a great question. So during the enrollment process, it's a process. We do bring the students in for academic screening. It's very rare that we turn away a student because they're not academically prepared. The screening allows us to ensure that we set them up to succeed with the best teachers and provide them supports, because we do have a special education department in our school where we can offer extra supports. I have 4 kids there. 3 of my 4 kids receive some type of service through our special education department.
Is it very quick? Go ahead.
So these children have IEPs?
Yes. Yes.
Pishney and then Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you've answered part of my question. So are you sponsored by a church like the Catholic schools that we hear from?
No, sir.
Or you're a standalone Christian school?
Yes, sir.
And then what kind of enrollment and what, are you K through 12 or just the elementary or what?
We are K through 12. We have 625 students, and a third of our students receive some type of financial assistance.
Thank you.
Representative Schreiber withdrew his question, so I think you two are on the same wavelength again. Any other questions for the conferee? Seeing none, we will move on to Jesus Lucero. Welcome, Jesus.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and everyone that's here. Am I allowed to use my phone for my speech? Okay.
Yes, you are.
The benefits I've gained from attending Catholic schools are immeasurable. Having experienced both public and Catholic schools, I'm confidently say that the friendships I've formed in Catholic schools are among the deepest and most meaningful. This is one of the greatest advantages of attending Catholic schools, the strong sense of fellowship and community. Many of my closest friends are people who I've met through Catholic school. Another significant benefit is the education, particularly the reason I've learned about history, especially church history. Catholic schools also taught me about the importance of empathy, how to put myself in other people's shoes and listen to different viewpoints, even when they are contradicting my own beliefs. This brings me to my third benefit, the central role of faith in Catholic schools. While all of us share a common belief in Jesus as our Lord and Savior, we also embrace the diversity of thought within our own community. This environment has helped me learn to listen to others even when their ideas seem unconventional or I disagree with them. One of my best friends, Ambrose Sudododen, he's probably the best example of this. By listening to other people, even handing out money to homeless people, even a guy that we met at a gas station parking lot giving out CDs for his music. He just seems the most quote-unquote holiness people would see in Catholic people. And lastly, the practice of prayer and daily mass is one of the greatest benefits of attending Catholic school. While many may take these opportunities for granted, I believe they should be the most important part of our day. Catholic schools are unique in offering daily prayer and mass, which has helped me connect with others who prioritize these practices. People who I've met through daily prayer and mass are among the best I know.
Jesus, you're out of time. Thank you. Would you like to stand for questions? Okay, very good, and you're doing a good job. It's not easy, is it? Questions for Representative Ruiz?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Jesus, thank you for being here. Are you the only child?
No, I have 4 other siblings.
Do they go to Catholic school as well? Okay, thank you.
Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here today. What do you want to do when you get out of school?
Go to WSU and hopefully do mechanical engineering. Greatest hope.
Additional questions for our conferee? Seeing none. Jesus, thank you so much for being with us today. And we go next to Mary Mittinger. Is she online, Nat? Okay, that must be an error. We'll go to Trina Delgado. And she should be online. Trina, you can begin when you're ready. And please make sure, there you go. We hear you now. You may begin.
Thank you very much, Madam Estes. We have, our scholarship students could not be in Topeka today because we are here learning. I wanted to give you a picture of who is being helped by this program. So I'll move out of the way so that you can see a few busy faces behind me. Our numbers have gotten smaller. They have been waiting very patiently for our turn to be on. I think we can address a couple of the questions that have been asked. If you are bilingual, raise your hand. If you have brothers or sisters that attend a public school, raise your hand real high. We are the only diocese, the Catholic Diocese of Dodge City, that does not have a Catholic high school. And so if they have siblings that perhaps attend a preschool or that attend high school, they have to go into the public school. So certainly we are big promoters of the public schools being fully funded. And I stand for questions.
Thank you. Questions for the conferee? Representative Schreiber?
Try to beat Representative Pishney to this, but so, what school are you at? Maybe I missed that.
We are at St. Mary's School in Garden City.
You know, I went there 1st through 4th grade.
Wow, how about that?
And I'm surprised that I haven't, had the nuns come chasing after me about all the things I did while I was there. But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions for our conferee? Representative Nguyen.
Thank you. And tell them all we said hello. I wish they were here.
We will. And boys and girls, what do you have to say to them?
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank
my
you
question
very
for you,
much.
Do you ask to see grades or test scores before you admit your students?
If a student is entering in kindergarten or preschool, then we accept anyone. If they are entering in grades beyond kindergarten, then they are to show us that they are a student in good standing. Now, that being said, for our scholarship students, we do not turn students down. Our students who are verified and accepted into the scholarship program, they are in our school.
Can I follow up with one? Just a short one.
Yes.
And what is your definition of good standing? And if they are not in good standing, what do you do?
So we work with the parents. We tell them when they are applying to our schools that it's very important for their students to be in school. It's very important for the families to be willing and ready to learn and work in cooperation with the principals and the teachers, and to know that they're going to need to work hard.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I have a clarifying follow-up to Representative Nguyen's question. So when you say good standing, is that attendance good standing, behavior good standing, academic good standing, or which combination thereof?
A combination of all three, yes.
Okay, thank you. Representative Pishney?
Madam Chair, thank you very much. And Trina, thank you for being here. My wife would be sad if I didn't say hi to you. And to the representative from Lyon County, I am surprised that St. Mary's School is still standing. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on in the interest of time. Students, it's so nice to have you all participate in testifying. I see you waving at us. We'll give you a wave. Go back. I don't know if you can see us, but we're glad to have you all here today. We will move on now to Dr. Delia Shropshire.
Okay, can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman, Representative Estes, and members of the House of the Education Committee. I'm the president of Holy Savior Catholic Academy. Our school has 86% free and reduced students. We are 80% other faith tradition. We accept students who have special needs. We work on a 1.3 years growth model. And so wherever a student comes in, we work to grow to 1.3 years each year. So they can be below grade level and enter our school. Our goal is to get them to grade level by the time they leave our school. Our lowest income students who enroll in our school are doing well academically. We oftentimes have to catch them up when they're learning. No matter what year they join our school. So I mentioned our 1.3 years growth model. We want our children to be successful contributed members to society. And when we do that, we will save the state millions of dollars. We have a student who entered our school. He was in a low-income family. He just recently lost his dad this year, but he entered our school in kindergarten. He had a lot of issues social skills, lacking social skills. And we worked with him in our environment and helped a young man who could have possibly been staffed as a behavioral issue. And he is now in the 6th grade and thriving. He does have an IEP to help support him still, but he is thriving and doing a great job. Imagine how many more students we can help if this law is expanded to the cap is raised. We can help more students. These families would be beneficiaries and we can be
Dr.
very.
Shropshire, you're out of time. Questions for Dr. Shropshire? Seeing none, thank you very much for being back with us. All right, we have 9 opponent testimonies to get through, and I'm looking at the clock, and what I want to do is prioritize people who have traveled to be here and are not normally in Topeka. Mr. Rogers, are you still living in Wichita? Would you, I want to make sure I hit you, not in a literal sense.
It's a privilege to, excuse me, to be here. I'm representing KIFA, the Kansas Interfaith Action Organization. We represent thousands of Kansans of faith throughout the entire state, dozens of congregations. If you saw our rally outside, we had 200 people here visiting today. And we're very supportive of public education, and we want people to understand that people of faith do support our public education. We feel that this is a program that takes public money and puts it in private hands. We're concerned about the fact that it could hurt rural communities, as we've seen these programs do in the past, that there is very little oversight on how the money is spent. The 250% poverty rate is concerning. A family of 4, poverty rate is 31,200, so 250% of that is 78,000, and the average household income of the state is 72,000, so that includes a lot of different people. I think it's also important that this group understands that there are other scholarship programs also in the state. The state treasurer's office has the Matching Kids Grant, which is a $600 grant that can be used. There's the 529 accounts that are also available. There's a number of different programs. So if you're going to budget it, make sure that you're including all that together, because I think when you get to the $25 million amount, you're starting to talk about real money that would normally come to the state. So I think that's a concern as well. So, for a variety of different reasons, I think we would be opposed to this change in the law. So thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to take questions?
If there's any quick questions. Otherwise, I'm always available by email.
Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for being here. Since you're representing people of faith, do you find that people of faith require a tax credit to do charitable works?
No.
Any other questions? Representative Schmoy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. You mentioned that this hurts rural communities. Can you give us some examples of that?
I think in a number of cases over the years, and I worked in the rural communities for over 35 years, when schools, private schools open in a community, or they drain students away from a public school, a loss of even 3 to 5 students will cause a school to close or to curtail staffing. And we've seen that in a number of different places. We see that in a number of different school districts. I just think it's a concern that is out there. When you lose your school, you lose your post office, you lose your co-op, you ultimately lose the communities. And again, statistics show that the number of rural communities dropping population continues to hit.
Representative Steele, and then Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you just answered the previous representative question, can you give me some specific examples of communities in the state of Kansas that have had to close?
I don't have them at the top of my head. I do know there's been a number of consolidations of school districts. I think the Kansas Association of School Boards could tell you about some of those districts that have come together. But I can tell you about a number of different communities throughout the state. And you don't have to drive too far to see the number of businesses that have closed because there aren't the number of students that are in a building any longer. I think you can go down Highway 54 pretty easily and look at almost any community you drive through from Kingman all the way to Garden City to see that happen. I know the number of businesses that are still on some of those highways are greatly reduced. The number of jobs that are there are down as well. I think you just have to look at normal statistics to see that.
Representative Hill.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and Mr. Rogers, thanks for being here. I'm curious, you seem to be quite adamant about public money ending up in private schools. First of all, this is donation money that's ending up in private schools, but
With
is
the
that
tax
because
break.
of your belief in separation of church and state?
I'm sorry?
Is that because of your belief in separation of church and state?
Well, this money, if the donation was not made, they would not be getting their tax deduction. That tax deduction money is coming out of the state general fund. It would have gone into that fund, without that donation.
I think my question was, is that because of your opposition, is because of your belief?
I think public money should have public accountability. Public people should be able to answer those kinds of questions. When you're spending $25 million of state money, I think there ends up being accountability and openness that needs to be, if we've spent $32 million on this program since 2016, there's a lot of other things that could be used. So again, that's your job as a representative, to weigh that tax break with whatever else you can be using that money for. Is there a better and higher use? A property tax deduction for everyone might be something to look at compared to a donation or a reduction for certain well-heeled donors.
Did your organization get a tax break because of your religious status?
The organization does not.
Okay, thank you.
I don't itemize, so I don't get a deduction either.
I assume the members of your organization.
We're out of time.
Yeah, they might. I don't know.
We are out of time. Okay. Out of the people I have left, the only one I don't know is Monica Brown. Monica, are you from Topeka? Let's let you go next.
Thank you. I'm scrapping this. I appreciate the opportunity. I don't take that privilege for granted. And I'm going to speak quickly on two different things. I'm a special education teacher in Gardner. I appreciated all your questions about special education students. Mine are the ones that would not even get tossed back because they wouldn't be in. Mine are the students that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to educate. Mine are the students that come with behavior challenges that private schools don't have the means to support. It's been shown, it's been demonstrated. I love that they came and were on the screen and were adorable. Mine are adorable too, and mine deserve that as well. And anytime we talk about tax cuts and tax breaks, that's going to impact budget decisions and budget discussions and budget decisions, just like the most recent one, where special education got drastically underfunded, which then impacts people like me who are going to end up not being able to get my job done in my current 80-hour work week. And it's going to directly impact my students, and they should matter. Thank you. And I would be happy to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you. Questions for the conferee? Seeing none, thank you for being with us.
I very much appreciate this. Thank you.
From what I can tell, everybody who was left in person is from Topeka. Are there any of you who are unable to be here tomorrow if we need to continue tomorrow? Okay, then I'm going to hop onto WebEx and ask if there anybody on WebEx who would be unable to testify tomorrow. You may unmute yourself and call attention to yourself if you are unable to testify tomorrow.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Tim Graham here.
Are you able to testify tomorrow? And if not?
I believe I'll be in the air at that time tomorrow, Madam Chair.
Then please go ahead and testify.
Okay, thank you for your indulgence, and I'll get right to it. All of you know who I am. For those that are listening at home, I'm Tim Graham with the Kansas National Education Association. I'll just encourage you to read our resolutions on this issue and also read the reasons why we are arguing against it. And I will point out the fact that these arguments are similar to the arguments that have accompanied this debate nationally for years. And often on the discussion on both sides is so steeped with national talking points and fraught with emotion that we seem to lose sight on the local perspective, and we begin to kind of be numb to how these policies truly impact our local schools, our educators, our students, and the communities that rely on the public school system as a cornerstone in their communities, particularly in rural communities. So I just want to talk about Kansas real quick. We are concerned that we're talking about supplementing public schools with a taxpayer incentive when we feel like there are still some unresolved public school funding issues that we need to address. Look, the legislature has made some tremendous progress on education funding over the past 10 years. Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, progressives, you've all come together to fund public education at constitutional levels as required by Gannon. And last year, the legislature boldly allocated $75 million in enhancements to special education. I feel like, however, so does my association, that we've kind of hit a wall. At the moment, the Senate has essentially stripped the enhancement out, the enhancement that you guys all fought for. We're in the third session of failing.
Mr. Graham, you're out of time. Do we have questions for the conferee? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tim, do you know the relationship of teacher pay in Kansas to Missouri and how that affects recruitment?
I don't know the relation to the Missouri. I know Missouri funding and that system is kind of apples and oranges compared to us, particularly when you're talking about the retirement benefits. But I will say this, that it has to always be a idea that we think about in terms of hampering recruitment. If one side of the state line pays more and has more benefits or better benefits than the other side of the line, I think that's common sense.
Thank you, Representative Getz, and then Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for being here in your testimony. So I've had this idea on my mind, and I want to get your feedback, and we can talk offline as well. Would your association be more amicable to tax credits like this if there was a similar rule to PAYGO, what we have in the budget? Basically, if we were going to introduce an increase in this to 25 million, that we'd have to find the other 15 million and cut out those tax credits. That's kind of what we're talking about here, is that there's a spot where we want to keep the state funds available to education in the proper way. Would that be an amicable solution in the future?
Representative Getz, let me just say in short, I can't answer that at the moment, but I think we would be happy to talk to you guys about any idea like that. And I've said for several years that you'll never get KNEA to be okay with vouchers. We're opposed to it. We're opposed to the philosophy of public money in private hands. But anytime you guys are talking about making things better, I would encourage you guys to listen to the arguments we make, because I do think on this issue there are some things that you could mitigate some of this, and possibly we could talk about that, but I doubt that you would ever get us to testify in favor of the bill just because of that.
Thank you, Representative Brantley.
Madam Chair, I was just going to make the comment that I didn't believe that the Missouri and Kansas teacher pay was germane to our topic today.
And let's not get into debate while we're taking testimony. I recognize that Ann Ma is here, and she's not someone who's normally at the building, so I'm going to go to her next. Frequent flyers, you're probably going to get pushed off till tomorrow.
We're good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ann Ma, Granny Activist. I encourage you to read my testimony because there's quite a bit of information in there about how private schools may be accredited, but they do not have the same oversight as public schools, and you need to be aware of that. First, you should not be putting a single dime into private schools until you meet your statutory obligation to fund special education. For the newbies, let me tell you why SPED was not in the Gannon case. When Gannon started, SPED funding was actually at the statutory 92% statewide average, so it was intentionally left out of the case. But by the time the case ended, funding was well below 92%. The plaintiffs asked to have it included, but the court said it was too late. So it is not part of the Gannon mandated funding, but it is required by your own law. So why are you even thinking about siphoning money off of public schools who largely provide those SPED services to private schools before you take care of SPED funding? And yes, it is public money. Tax dollars are public money. Second, the last time I was here, one committee member asked if I was aware that 68% of Kansans supported school choice. Doesn't surprise me. Land of the free, home of the brave. We like options. But when you ask folks if they want to pay for someone's kid to go to private religious or a boutique school on their tax dollar, the answer is a resounding no. Just like every other single state that has voted on this issue, they have voted down private school vouchers. Nebraska even totally overturned their whole program. So I think if you guys think this is a great idea, put it on the ballot. Let's see if your constituents think it is a great idea. There is a reason why this wasn't brought up last year. It was an election year, and vouchers do not go well with Kansas voters. So I encourage you to vote this down or get rid of it altogether. Also, I don't see any reason to add new categories, particularly military, because Kansas now, public schools, have the Kansas Purple Star School program, which provides extra services to families, military families, and kids that go far above anything private schools do. Am I out of time?
I think I forgot to start the timer, but so that is my bad, but I think we can guesstimate that you
I am a lucky girl.
Do we have questions for former board member Ma? Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, I've been asking this question about screen the kids first for test scores where public schools cannot. Do you know of any schools in this area, private schools that do that?
Yeah, in fact, there's one in Topeka that before you can go there, your application must include 2 years grades, 2 years academic scores, and 2 years of your assessment scores. Then they will likely give you another test to make sure you're academically excellent before you get there. In fact, on their website, it's been taken down now, but on their website it said if you're a 9th grader and you're planning to come to their high school and you're not already taking accelerated classes, don't bother because they don't do remediation and they don't take behavior problems. This is a private school here in Topeka that has participated in the scholarship program in the past, and I don't think that's the kind of thing taxpayers want to pay for.
You're welcome. Any other questions for the conferee? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I forgot to go back online. Mary or Aaron, if either of you are not able to testify tomorrow, I would like to give you time today. Please identify yourself. I'm sorry. Aaron, go ahead.
Okay, I do have time tomorrow if you need it. So would you still like me to go today?
Unless Mary lets me know that she doesn't have.
Let's check on Mary.
I can go today or tomorrow as well.
Okay, so let's do Aaron, and then Aaron, you'll be our last person for today.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in opposition to SB 87. Game On for Kansas Schools opposes programs that reduce our state general fund by diverting public tax dollars to private schools with no limits on private school admission and retention policies or means of public oversight of financial records, academic programs, or performance. We especially oppose SB 87 at a time when neither the House or Senate seems to be able to find room in the budget for an adequate increase in special education funding. We remain perplexed as to how an expansion to this program that will provide more funding for private schools could be considered at a time when public schools must continually take money from their general operating funds to cover the shortfall in special education, services that are provided to both public and private school students. We also believe this program should no longer be referred to as a low-income scholarship. The current income threshold is above the median income for Kansas families and well above the income threshold at its inception, moving it away from its original intent of serving at-risk low-income students. With over 200,000 free and reduced lunch students currently eligible for this program, we should not be eliminating the income cap for some categories of families or more than doubling the program cap. Every expansion provides private schools with a larger pool of students to choose from, making it less likely that those at-risk low-income students will be chosen to participate. Raising the cap on the program will allow for more tax avoidance. Donors to these private school scholarships significantly reduce their state income tax liability, which then reduces our state general fund. If a donor has enough income to be able to use a $500,000 tax credit, they can afford to do a regular donation and receive a tax deduction, like those of us who donate to other charities. As supporters of our public schools and the vast majority of Kansas children who are educated in them, we've seen voucher programs in other states defund public schools, devastate student learning, and discriminate against vulnerable students. We urge
Erin,
the committee.
you're out of time. I think my timer was working before, and for some reason, I did something that switched it to silent, so I'm sorry. Questions for Erin? Seeing none, Erin, thank you for being with us today, and thank you, also to Mary for being flexible. We do have a handful of conferees that have not had a chance to testify. I will begin with you all tomorrow, and thank you, everybody, for your cooperation in figuring out how we accommodate those who couldn't be here tomorrow. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Then we are adjourned.